Okay, so last classes we uh, we studied about elements of communications, and today we will learn about removing communication barriers. So removing communication barriers, there are different type of communication barriers. First is linguistic barrier, physical barrier, cultural barrier, organizational structures barrier, psychological barrier, emotional barriers, perception barriers, and technological barriers. Barriers, the meaning barrier you already know, so I don't think that I have to explain what does barriers mean. Okay, so first topic is linguistic barrier. The struggle to understand unfamiliar actions in a language due to difference in culture is one of the main barriers that limit effective communication. So the first barrier, that is linguistic barrier, you can say that different state have different actions, and they have different languages like Tamil, Urdu, Punjabi, Kannada, Marathi, Manipuri, Bengali, Assamese, Hindi. These are all different type of languages. If we go to other state and if they speak their own language, suppose they speak Tamil, so even if they speak Tamil, we won't understand what they are saying, and if we also say something, they won't understand. So this barrier is known as linguistic barrier. Different type of languages used in different states, and you cannot use them for communications. So this is known as a linguistic barrier. Next is physical barrier, like noise, closed door, faulty equipment used for communication, closed cabin, etc. These are known as physical barrier. For example, if now I am recording this video, and at background if there are some noises, lots of noises, then you won't hear my voice. That will be a physical barrier. Then closed door. If we say, for example, in a class, if someone is outside the class and our door is closed, every windows are closed, if they say something from outside the class, we cannot hear until and unless they shout at a very high voice. Maybe then we can hear. But due to closed door, if someone is outside, we have to open the door. Without them, we can without opening the door, we cannot hear what they are trying to say. So that is also a physical barrier. Then faulty equipment used for communication. Suppose you went to some concert and all, and if the mic is not working, then what will happen? No one will hear what is happening in that program or in that concert. So due to faulty equipment used for communication, that is maybe for singing or maybe for drama and all, if the equipments are not good, then that is also a kind of physical barrier. And closed cabin, if suppose in an office someone is sitting in a cabin and that cabin is also closed, someone outside from the cabin if tries to call that person won't hear it. So that is also an example of physical barrier. Then cultural barriers, just like religious, food, drink, dress code, and the general behavior may be different from one culture to another, we can say that is cultural barrier is mainly for countries. One country, like our culture is different from western culture, right? From it is also different from like Japanese, Chinese, or Koreans, or someone who is in South Africa. So their their food habit or drinking style or their drinking habit or dress code, that is totally different from other country. So that is known as a cultural barrier. Organizational barriers. The barriers refers to the hindrance in the flow of information among the employees that might result in commercial failure of the organization. So in an organization, if the information among the employee is not proper, then you can say that is an organizational barrier. The flow of information among the employees. If one employee is giving information to the second employee, but second employee is not providing the complete information to the third employee, and so on, when this information is passed from one person to another person, then that will be one organizational barrier, because in an organization same information should be provided to each and every employee. Maybe in written form or maybe in digital form, but it should not be passed from person to person through mouth. So that will be an organizational barrier. Then psychological barrier. There are various mental and physical issues that may block effective communication. Example, stage fear, speech disorder, phobia, depression, etc. So psychological barriers, there are some people who are afraid of stage. They cannot go to a stage and they cannot communicate. that will be a stage fear. That is a psychological barrier. Again, there are people, we can see in our class also, there are students who cannot means they do not ask question. Even last class I remember, not a single student communicate. No, none of the even admins, I don't remember, even the admins also, they did not send any messages. So that is, I have to say, that is the kind of psychological barrier, because I know everything is not clear. So every student should have that mindset that they ask question whenever they have doubt. Okay, so if you have doubt today in the class, you should ask. Either you send your message to admin, or you can directly message to me in my personal number. Okay, so don't just have doubts in the mind and sit there, because this is an online class. If you have any doubt, you ask me. Don't have this psychological barrier. Okay, so next is emotional barrier. The emotional quotient of a person limits the easy with which he or she communicate. So if there is an emotional quotient, if someone is like very angry or upset, then even then there will be a barrier. That person won't ask anything, or that person may not communicate. So that is an emotional barrier. Then perception barriers. Different people perceive the same thing differently, and hence crucial to effective communication. Everyone point of view is different. They have different perception for a particular thing. Just like in this picture, you can see for one person it's 6, for the other person it is 9. Both of them are correct, but since their perceptions are different, they won't agree. So this is known as a perception barrier. And last, technological barrier. Technology is developing fast, and as a result it becomes difficult to keep abreast of a new development, and thus it may become a barrier. So as you know that technology is developing at a very fast speed. Last year the mobile phones that were that launched last year, now you can say they are outdated, because today or these days mobiles are coming out with different technologies. They are upgraded version. So if somebody does not understand, does not learn this new technologies, then they will have a communication barrier, they will have a technological barrier. Like online classes, if some teacher does not want to adopt new technology, suppose Zoom classes are going on for different higher classes. If some teacher do not adopt this new technology of Zoom, then that person will stay behind, right? So that will be a technological barrier. Maybe again next year there will be different technologies coming up, so we should always upgrade ourselves according to the technologies. We should update ourselves with knowledges and all, right? So this is technological barrier. This is the last point. And don't if you have any question, don't just sit down and wait for the question and answer. Immediately, if you have any question, just message it to the group, or you can message it to me. Okay, so here I'll stop. Thank you. And if you have question, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, thank you.